The village of Ofanta was a place where children's laughter carried across young farms and the clatter of pesos rose with the sun. Families believed children were blessings that kept names alive, so when Omar and Obama went 3 years without a child, whispers grew around them. Some pitied them, others mocked them, but the couple never stopped praying. Then one morning, under the dim glow of a lantern, Omar's cry of labor turned into a baby's cry. It was no ordinary cry, it pierced the air, rolling through the compound so loudly that neighbors thought something terrible had happened. They rushed over, only to find Obama grinning ear to ear, lifting a small bundle wrapped in cloth. "She has arrived," he shouted. "Our daughter has arrived." The midwife smiled, placing her hand on Omar's shoulder. "She is strong, Omar. A child with such a cry will never go unnoticed." They named her Equitus. She was beautiful from the start, with clear skin, dark curls, and curious eyes that darted around as if she already wanted to know everyone's business. Obama slaughtered a goat that evening, inviting the whole village to feast. Drums beat, palm wine flowed, and Ofanta welcomed the child whose first act in the world was to make herself heard. Omar rocked the baby gently and whispered, "You will bring us joy, Equitus. Only joy." But even she could not guess how much trouble her daughter's voice would one day bring. Equitus grew quickly, with bright clothes sewn by her mother and braids tied with beads that clicked when she walked. She was spoiled with love and laughter, and no one could resist her mischievous smile. But school was another matter. Equitus, her teacher sighed one afternoon, tapping the blackboard. 2 + 2 is 4. "Say it." Equitus yawned. 2 + 2 is 5. The children roared with laughter. She didn't mind. In fact, she enjoyed being the center of attention. She learned early that people's eyes always followed her, not for her books or songs, but for her chatter. When lessons ended, Equitus would slip to her mother's hair salon, pretending to help sweep. She listened as women gossiped while having their hair plaited. "Did you hear about Mama Nduka's daughter? Pregnant before marriage," one woman whispered. Another hissed, "And the father?" "Nobody knows." Equitus would store every word like treasure. Later, at the stream, she would gather her friends. "Come closer," she would say with a grin. "Let me tell you what I heard." The children squealed, half shocked, half delighted. It became her habit, her talent. While others studied, Equitus perfected the art of carrying news. Her parents scolded her many times, but she always promised to change, only to slip back into her ways. The trouble began with Mama Chuka. Equitus had overheard a quarrel at the stream, Mama Chuka and another woman exchanging sharp words. Without thinking twice, Equitus ran to Papa Chuka. "Papa Chuka," she said breathlessly. "Do you know what your wife said at the stream? She insulted another man's wife. People are saying she is unfaithful." Papa Chuka's eyes widened. He stormed home, and before long, the whole village knew. The marriage crumbled, and Mama Chuka's tears filled the compound. Some villagers shook their heads, muttering, "It is that Equitus again." Not long after, she exposed Amoka's secret. At her mother's salon, she overheard women whispering that Amoka, engaged to Obira, carried another man's child. Excited, Equitus went straight to Obira. "Obira," she said, lowering her voice, "you must open your eyes. The child your fiancé carries is not yours." The wedding was called off in disgrace, and Amoka's family was humiliated. Days later, Amoka and her friend cornered Equitus by the river. "You ruined me!" Amoka screamed, striking her with a stick. Equitus cried out, but the villagers standing nearby did nothing. Many had tasted the sharpness of her tongue, and no one pitied her. That night, as Oma cleaned her daughter's bruises, she warned, "One day your mouth will destroy you, Equitus. Must you repeat everything you hear?" But Equitus only turned her face away, stubborn as ever. Equitus grew older but no wiser. Her curiosity carried her everywhere, into corners, behind fences, near the palace walls. It was there she heard the greatest secret of all: the king was not the father of the prince. A hunter had fathered him, because the king was impotent. Her heart raced. This was bigger than market gossip. This was a royal scandal. Her parents begged her to keep silent when they noticed her restless excitement. Equitus, Obama pleaded. This is not a story for your lips. If you speak it, you will bring ruin. But Equitus could not hold back. During a palace festival, when drums thundered and dancers twirled, she slipped inside. In front of the king, she began to sing a playful song, weaving the secret into the words. At first the crowd clapped along, but soon they fell silent as the meaning became clear. The king's face froze in rage. The queen trembled, and the hunter was dragged forward. Out, the king roared. Out of my sight forever. The queen and the hunter were banished that very night. News spread like wildfire. The kingdom was shamed. People cursed Equitus openly, and her parents' salon and farm lost customers. The family who once celebrated their loud child now lived in disgrace. Equitus sat alone, feeling for the first time that her tongue had brought not only excitement but destruction. Yet the lesson had still not sunk deep enough. To keep Equitus busy, her mother placed her under the guidance of Madame Nwoko, a respected seamstress. For a while, Equitus sat quietly, learning to cut cloth and thread needles. But gossip ran in her veins like blood. One day in the market, she noticed a strange maiden, too beautiful, too quiet. The girl never bought anything, just drifted among the stalls. Intrigued, Equitus followed her at a distance, past the farms, into the forest. To her shock, the maiden slipped into the trunk of an old odora tree and vanished. The next morning, Equitus returned, hiding behind a bush. She watched in horror as the maiden stepped out of the tree, removed her own head, and calmly began to braid her hair. Equitus's stomach twisted. She ran back to the market, shouting, "Come! Come! There is a maiden in the forest who removes her head to braid her hair." The maiden turned and fixed her with a cold stare. Equitus's voice vanished. She clutched her throat, choking. Invisible whips cracked against her back, making her stumble and scream without sound. The villagers stared, terrified, but none dared help her. For weeks, Equitus lived in torment. Every night, she was beaten by unseen spirits. Her back blistered, her eyes swelled, and still she could not speak. Her parents tried everything: herbal baths, prayers, sacrifices at the shrine, but nothing worked. At last, her father carried her to a native doctor in a faraway village. The man, old and blind, listened carefully, then said, "This girl is being punished by spirits. She broke the law of silence. Some secrets belong to the other world. She exposed them, and now the spirits claim her. What can we do?" Olma wept. "A sacrifice must be made. White cock, palm oil, and yam flour at the foot of the odora tree. Only then will her torment ease." The family obeyed. That night, they offered the sacrifice, praying with trembling voices. Slowly, the spirits released Equitus. Her voice returned in fragments, hoarse and broken, and her back healed but left scars. Equitus bowed her head and whispered for the first time with sincerity, "Never again. I will never gossip again." The Equitus who returned from the forest was no longer the same. Her laughter was softer, her voice quieter. She sat for hours at her sewing, practicing stitches until her fingers bled. Slowly, she became one of the best seamstresses in Ofanta. Neighbors began to trust her again. They came with cloth, leaving with beautiful garments, noticing that Equitus no longer asked questions or shared tales. If someone whispered near her, she only smiled and returned to her needle. Her scars remained, ridges across her back, constant reminders of the price of careless words. Children who once giggled at her stories now pointed at her scars in fear, whispering, "That is what happens to those who gossip too much." Oma often watched her daughter at work and sighed. "At last, you have found peace." Equitus nodded. She had learned that a mouth that runs without rest can destroy homes, kingdoms, and even lives. From then on, she spoke little, worked hard, and carried herself with quiet dignity. And so, Ofanta returned to peace, carrying the memory of the girl whose voice once shook the village and whose silence, at last, brought calm.